Willis from Latitude, and today we're delighted to be joined by Mr. Bruno L'ecuyer, the founder and chief executive of the Investment Migration Council. Bruno, welcome to Dubai. Lovely to see you here as always. Can you tell us a little bit for our listeners, what is the Investment Migration Council and what's its purpose within the investment migration industry?
Right, sure, Chris. First of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's great to be back in Dubai. So the IMC, or Investment Migration Council, was established in 2014, so 7 years ago now, and we are essentially the worldwide association for investor migration. So we bring together all the various stakeholders, which includes the immigration agents, but also governments and academics and due diligence providers, to provide essentially a platform for exchanges between the sector of investment migration. What we also do is we set the standards for others to follow in investment migration. We provide education courses, and we also do some advocacy on behalf of the stakeholders.
Yeah, and as you say, you have many different elements to it, and the setting, as you say, best practices, code of ethics is very important also for consumers who are looking to engage with practitioners and such. How has it been impacted with COVID in terms of the IMC and the industry as a whole? Have you seen any trends at all?
Yeah, certainly COVID has affected the IMC. We are a non-profit Swiss-based association doing a lot of work in Europe. We've been focused heavily on Brussels advocacy, protecting the rights of operators like yourselves to be able to continue to operate in investment migration, and COVID has had an impact. However, it has had its positives and its negatives. What we did very, very quickly is switch from being an in-person type organization where we organize a lot of workshops. We of course have our annual forum, which is a big get-together for the sector, and the in-person activities that we do with advocacy, meeting with governments, providing advisory, and we switched to now actually being a digital business. In fact, so we very quickly switched from these in-person events. We started doing weekly webinars, interactive sessions with our members and the wider consumer society of investment migration. We also started doing a lot of meetings through Zoom, like everybody else did, using Teams, continuing to meet with MEPs and with policymakers, and it has had, a positive effect in that we've been able to continue doing what we do, although with less income coming into the association. So there has been some financial challenges for us as well. But we're very strongly financed. We've got 450 members in about 53 different countries, and we're very lucky to have a terrific board of trustees, and that has supported the switch from being a traditional association into essentially now being a digital business. And the fact that we have a very strong membership base has allowed us to continue operating and growing our membership base. Also.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's adapted and adjusted, I guess, because of the pandemic, and even the forum last year was a virtual forum, which was, I think, a lot of people are getting used to in this new age that we're in. So, Bruno, one of the interesting components of the IMC is its education element, which you promote the Certificate of Investment Migration. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. So the IMC certification, essentially, it's a groundbreaking initiative. It's designed to prepare participants for work in a new and vibrant industry, if they're just entering the industry. But also, it's about upskilling your staff and providing better career prospects for yourself as an individual if you're already working in the sector. So essentially, the certification investment migration, it's an intermediate level course with 5 modules So you need to pass those 5 modules to be a certified investment migration professional, which provides verifiable competency levels. And what we've done is we've added 2 new modules recently. So essentially, as a student, you get a lot of choice in the modules that you want to study, so you have a tailored learning journey. So you have 3 compulsory modules that you have to do, and then you've got 2 elective modules or selected modules that you choose to study. Once you've passed all 5 of those modules, you then convert that into the certification in investment migration. And this is all done online. So it's actually been COVID proofed even before we launched, which is about 3 years ago now. So the online learning journey using the learning management system means that you can learn using your laptop, your mobile device. If you want, you can download PDFs of the learning material. So you can do it on the train, you can do it on the aeroplane, you can do it in your lunch break, and then you can stop and start. The entire course is designed to be done over a 6-month period. But you can also choose to do bite-sized modules. So essentially, you can literally sign up to be a student on one module. And then if that goes well for you, then you choose another module and you kind of pay it as you go. So it's a learning journey that's really gives you a lot of flexibility. So essentially after 6 months and you've passed the online tests, which are multiple choice questions. So you get 100 multiple choice questions per module. And if you're doing the certificate itself, there's a bank of 300 questions, but only 100 will come up for the entire certification, right? And then pass rate is 70%. You're immediately issued with your certificate, which is signed and approved by the IMC in Geneva. And actually, if you're a processing agent, you're learning about anti-money laundering, you're learning about KYC. If you're a new entrant to the industry, which many people are, you're learning about what is investment migration, what are the differences between residency by investment, the differences with citizenship by investment, because they're very different things, and it provides you with verifiable competency, a level where nobody else in the sector of investment migration is providing that education and training. So we're super excited about it. We have about 150 graduates now since we launched, and about 50 people are taking the bite-size learning journey because it gives that, that essential flexibility. So as the sector evolves in investment migration, we will continue to provide new modules. The latest one we've introduced is about the Common Reporting Standard and the mandatory disclosure rules, which is all about the regulatory framework within financial services, but as you know, is also starting to permeate down into investment migration. So we're super excited about the developments in this course.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal step, and as I said, those key elements that not every practitioner realizes that they need to have knowledge of to be efficient in this sector. And great to hear all the graduates, and I'm sure there's going to be many more coming through. One thing that I think is relevant here, and I want to ask you about consumer protection. So we've seen circumstances where clients have engaged a representative and not had a good experience. Do you see the IMC having a role in promoting the benefits of using a member of the IMC to the consumers, because they can now verify A, that they've been through and got a certificate and have the competencies, and B, also have recourse if they were not satisfied with the decision, especially in markets like here in Dubai, where many people don't know the IMC even exists. And so some type of marketing campaign saying who the IMC is and why it's important in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Consumer protection is something that's come up time and time again. What we've always done from the beginning is to, first of all, we vet our members to ensure that all members are fit and proper so they have experience. There are no criminal complaints. There's no civil litigation against any of our members. All our members abide by the Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. We also have an anti-bribery and corruption policy, which we've introduced 2 years ago. So it provides consumers that are looking for advisory on a residency or citizenship program, that if they work with an IMC member, then they get that extra assurance that they are dealing with a professional individual or a professional firm. So I'm not saying this is foolproof, because it's not, but we are trying our very best to ensure that consumer protection remains on the top of the agenda for us. We do get an increasing number of inquiries coming in through our website, asking questions about particular firms. Some of those firms are members of the IMC, others are not. Whichever the case is, we direct people towards our audited online directory of firms and individuals. Now, with that directory, it also now includes a star that specifically identifies whether the individual has a certification in investment migration, which provides extra assurance that they're dealing with individuals that are professional and competent in providing that advisory on such a huge lifestyle decision for a consumer.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's the way, as the world is becoming more regulated, whether it's in banking or whatever, this is a natural progression of the IMC, and any smart consumer needs to be able to ask, specific questions when they're interviewing a representative, and one of those questions should be, are you a member of the IMC? So those, hopefully, if there's some marketing and promotion around that, that'll start becoming part of the discourse. But where you, in terms of membership, you mentioned the 450, and where are you seeing the largest growth in new members coming in, or where is the greatest concentration of IMC members?
Yeah, we're quite spread over about 53 different countries. One of the surprises that we had was coming from the US market. We're seeing a big shift in how US immigration practitioners are practicing their business. In the past, it was very focused on the US EB-5 program or the other avenues into the US, but we're seeing US professionals wanting to go a little bit more global and start dealing with Caribbean programs, but also European programs, particularly in Spain and Portugal. So we're quite pleasantly surprised by the number of US immigration lawyers and advisors that are joining the IMC and really understand what we're doing, because it provides them with a global platform to learn about global investment migration, but also access key markets. And then the other area or geographic location is the Middle East. We are seeing a big traction in the Middle East. For us, we see that as making a lot of sense. The Middle East has great global connectivity, has a great workforce, it's multilingual, and it has great business frameworks as well. So that makes a lot of sense. What we don't do on the flip side is we don't aggressively promote membership. That's what has allowed us to have this organic growth. So a lot of the new members that come in, they're because, I spoke to a friend, the friend referred me, I've seen something on your website. So that has perhaps slowed growth, but on the positive side, it means that we have a retention rate with members of around 98%.
And with regards to the lobbying initiatives that the IMC is very involved in, particularly with Brussels, what dialogues what are you hearing coming out of Brussels? Do you have any trends that you can forecast for next year, or any direction of language that you might be hearing from Brussels?
Right. Well, this is, of course, an area that's been very important to our members and governments as well. Particularly in the last 3 years, the IMC is on the Transparency Register within the European Parliament, which gives us privileged access to policymakers. not only in Brussels, but also we have continual engagement with the OECD in Paris. I would say in terms of trends, investment migration will continue to be on the agenda for specific committees within the European Parliament, notably one on tax transparency. The LIBE committee is very much focused on investment migration. We know that the EPRS, so that's the European Parliamentary Research Service, has recently published a study on investment migration with 5 different policy options for Brussels to choose or to potentially take forward, one or multiple of those options in terms of dealing with investment migration. So we continue to be a bridge between the policymakers in Brussels and the stakeholders whose livelihoods and businesses are dependent on their license to operate in that area. So if you follow us on our website and sign up to all the information that we provide through emails and on Twitter and LinkedIn, then you're in a good position to stay updated on what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't think people realize how much is being done behind the scenes, right, on behalf of the stakeholders and the members. So I applaud you and your team for that, because I know it takes a lot of your time and a lot of your energies, and a lot of your focus. So keep going with that great work. And also, just for the benefit of the listeners, you mentioned the transparency, but you have a designation as having special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Can you just let me know, what does that mean? What is that? How did you get that? What was the process to get it? And what benefit does that bring to the IMC?
Yeah, the UN ECOSOC, the Economic and Social Council, is one of the important organs that operates within the family of the UN, and it does that in Geneva, but also in the more famous New York building. So we applied to join ECOSOC towards the mid-2017, and that application took about 18 months to be processed. So a lot of due diligence, background checks, fit-for-purpose checks, and audits were undertaken on the IMC, on who we are and why do we want to join the ECOSOC. For us, ECOSOC makes a lot of sense because it's about developing economies. And investment migration exactly does that. It provides debt-free capital injection into economies which otherwise would struggle to attract new sources of investment without going to the international markets. So actually we found quite a welcoming group within the UN family that were very interested to hear about investment migration. Of course, it's migration at the end of the day, but it's a legal pathway. So it's a legal form of migration that one of the biggest benefits is attracting this debt-free capital. So we did find a very welcoming approach to the IMC's work. So what do we do within the UN ECOSOC is we provide testimony, we publish reports and research, and we also look at how the UN SDGs benefit from investment migration. In fact, if you go to our website, all our research is freely available and downloadable. And we did a research project on mapping the UN SDGs with investment migration. Okay. So we found things like bringing potable water to everybody, improving infrastructure, economic growth and job stability. These are all points or SDGs that 194 different countries have signed up to and agreed to achieve by 2030. And we found that, yes, investment migration monies, if used properly by governments, actually go towards attaining those SDGs. So it's actually win-win for everybody. So it's transactional in terms of that the investor gets a new citizenship or a new residency, but the country has the ability to attain those goals. So it's very much win-win.
Okay, wonderful. no, it sounds it's a great relationship, and we look forward to watching that evolve over the years as well. One of the things you may recall, there was an article at the Times of Malta where it suggests that the EU is in favor of taxing countries that are promoting residence or citizenship by investment programs. But what are your views on this, Bruno?
I didn't read that specific article. I think those are kind of media headlines. We take that with a pinch of salt. The conversations I have with policymakers are not overwhelmingly focused on the taxation of investment migration programs. I think what that article alluded to was an EPRS study on potential solutions or opportunities for the European Union to deal with investment migration, which remains largely unregulated, right? So they're a little bit in this complex situation of, we know that this business is going on, we don't really know what to do with it. And Brussels, particularly the Commission, likes to get involved in how business is being done.
Yes.
And it likes to have its fingers in all the pies, if you excuse the analogy. What we are in support of, and we've been very clear on this for the last 5 years, is that if investment migration is to be sustainable, then it needs to be regulated. We are talking about a sector of migration which handles a massive amount of data, personal data, which is now covered by GDPR, if we're talking about European clients,
Yes.
and money, which should fall under various AML/FT directives, like the 5th Anti-Money Laundering Directive from the EU or the US FATCA, but it's not always a case. There are some grey areas in that respect. So regulation is going to be a fact of life, and it's the only way we see it and our members see it for the sustainability of investment migration. What we want to do is to ensure that we have a seat at the table with the policymakers so the right decisions are taken when it comes to regulation of residence and citizenship programs. Because the benefits, as we've published many times, outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, and it's making sure, I guess, now that the key people in Brussels and in Paris actually understand that. I know there was challenges with making sure they fully understood the facts and not relying on misinformation to make their statements and their policy decisions as well, because it's an easy target, let's say, right, if they are looking to point the finger somewhere. Malta, as an example, we know has a very robust due diligence program that would tick all the boxes for the Commission to be satisfied, but they still seem to always be the target for comments and such. And I know that the efforts that you've been making to support the industry and making sure that the correct facts are presented to Brussels is now starting to make a difference. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think it's fair. We won't go into the political attacks against Malta. We're a non-partisan, non-political organisation, and our focus is to ensure that there are high standards with investment migration and that the industry can continue to operate, simply because ultimately we actually believe it is a force for good. And it does help disadvantaged people if the monies from investment migration are deployed in the right way. So in the context of Europe and European countries, we're talking about investment in schools, in hospitals, in clinics, education for all, and then certain infrastructure projects that bring about necessary infrastructure to communities which are perhaps a little bit disconnected from cities. So essentially, that is what we do. We won't get involved in in the politics of it. But you mentioned tax as one solution that's being proposed to the EU. I don't think that will have much broad support within the 27 member states that make up the representation in the European Parliament. Remember, there's these 700 MEPs that work in Brussels. What I do think is a good idea, though, is that perhaps a certain part of or a contribution from these programs is put into a pot, a rainy day pot, if you like, which can then be deployed in emergency situations, which we have seen in Europe. Yes. And sometimes Europe is a little bit slow to react to certain domestic disasters. Yes. So if that money can be put towards projects like that, like the US has FEMA, which is very well equipped, very well funded, and responds very, very quickly to domestic issues that take place, emergencies rather than issues. I think that's a good thing, really. And then all 27 member states can benefit from that. But to say programs should be taxed at 50, 70, 80 or 90%, or all the money created from these programs, instead of going to a country, goes into the treasury at Brussels, I think this is, totally absurd, quite frankly, and makes no sense at all.
Well, I mean, like you said, it's part of our role is to provide solutions, right? Because we know the benefit, especially some of the smaller member states, smaller countries, say in the Caribbean, where I think St. Kitts at one point the revenues coming in were 35% of the GDP, so they have a dependency now on these programs. And we've seen as well that some of these countries had reserves so that when the pandemic hit, they had some reserves they could dip into to help compensate for loss of revenues through the tourism industry, of which they're very reliant on. Having the rainy day fund, I think, is very important. And maybe one thing the pandemic has shown us, you have that contingency in place because you never know, what's around the corner. And so, finding a way to structure that. And as you say, providing suggestions or solutions to help accommodate could be a way forward.
Well, Chris, I totally agree, and I will add there, putting my economist hat on. It's about two things for us. One is about transparency of those funds and how those funds are being deployed, and ensuring that there's full accountability for how governments deploy and use those funds. Yes. And then the other is, from an economics perspective, is where are you placing those funds? So any economist will tell you that using CBI funds for recurring expenditure is not a good idea. You want to be keeping that for rainy days, but you want to be investing in very specific infrastructure projects, such as bringing potable water, clinics, schools, anything that's education related, roads that permit the movement of people. That is a good thing. Yeah. So not recurring expenditure, but those very specific infrastructure projects. Why? Simply because if a CBI program does close, which we know their weak points, then they can close overnight. All it takes is for the EU to say, hey, we're suspending visa-free access for country X and country Y. And that makes the program completely unattractive for investors, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you don't want to be paying your government salaries using CBI funds. Yes. Or you don't want to be paying your commitments to the IMF or the World Bank using CBI funds. You want to be saying, hey, we want to build a bridge, we want to build a school, but if it doesn't happen, well, we have to find the money from somewhere else.
Well, I mean, you're seeing that now in St. Kitts and Nevis, where they just announced one of their projects will be to build a correctional facility, because their current prison is well out of date. So they're identifying that as a viable investment to go in and give something back to the country. And I think also it just again shows to the nationals of those countries that they are getting benefit, from these programs as well, because they may not know where the money is going, but if they see, a new correctional facility, a new school, an improved highway, they're then endorsing, this program because it's making their quality of life much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And quality of life is super important. And that's essentially how CBI funds should be used. It's about improving people's quality of life.
So Bruno, we spoke about the Investment Migration Forum, which was virtual this year, but can you tell us what the plans are for 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited to be back. We've had to cancel in 2020 for the pandemic because it was obviously much safer for everybody to stay at home. So we missed that one out. We said 2021, we do want to do something. So we went online and did a pretty successful online event. 2022, we are back. We are firmly making a commitment to being in Brussels between the 6th and 9th of June. And there we are expecting around 400 delegates from all over the world to come down into the city and see what the Investment Migration Forum is all about. We know that we have a lot of our members excited to get back to in-person events. Very excited about the forum. It has a great pedigree. We've been doing it for 6 years now. So it's a great event that brings academics together. It brings governments together. It brings professionals like yourselves together. So we're super excited to come back to in-person events. For that.
I've already blocked the time off. I'm excited to get there, and as I say, just within the community that we have in the investment migration industry, to have that time to reconnect and see old friends and colleagues we haven't seen for a long time. So I think we're all kind of itching to get back into these in-person events. So
we are
looking forward to that and to seeing you in Brussels. Anything, well, Bruno, what are the dates of the forum?
So 6th to 9th of June, suggest everybody arrives on the 5th and departs on the 9th. We're going to have a great program of academic talks. There's going to be a lot of networking. Like we're quite, we've got a good reputation for networking events, both in the day and in the evening as well. And then we have lots of panel discussions. We're going to have speakers from all over the world. Typically, we have 50 to 60 speakers coming down from all over the world. So you can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and look at our website also for updates and start registrations from January the 1st, 2022.
And website address is?
www.investmentmigration.org, or you can just search through Google Investment Migration Forum.
Wonderful. Bruno, any final words from you?
No, it's great. Thank you very much for having me here today. I've enjoyed the discussion, and I look forward to meeting and having more in-person chats with people now.
Yeah, I think we all are, and I guess I'll finish off by saying on behalf of Latitude and Rift Trust, thanks for making the time. Great to see you here in Dubai. Looking forward to seeing you again in Brussels, and hopefully beforehand as well.
Yep. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, Bruno.